Hello, my name is Michelle Blanco, and I am here to talk to you today about community agreements. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we start, I like to do a little something to prepare for our time together. And I like to take 3 deep breaths. So breathing is essential. So we will take 3 deep breaths together. Thank you so much ahead of time for participating and humoring me through this practice. Uh, I do this because I just want to acknowledge that we're coming into this conversation, into this meeting from different places. We all are each bringing in things that are coming in from whatever we experienced within the last hour, within the last week. And so you may have had just a difficult conversation with someone before coming in here, or maybe a stressful or family work situation, stressful family or work situation. Maybe sadness is coming into the room with you for reasons we don't know. And you made the choice to be in the room with us today. Or maybe you're just zoomed out, as so many of us are, right? And so we are many times tired of these video calls. And so I just want to acknowledge and take some time to care for ourselves, and make that a practice to care for ourselves, our bodies, our emotions, so that we can be also present during this time. And so we're going to take 3 deep breaths. It's going to be a slow breath in through your nose. You're going to hold it for about 3 seconds, and then we will exhale together very slowly through our mouth. And so you can choose to mute your video, or you can close your eyes, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Also pay attention to how you're sitting, as that can impact the stress that we feel many times when we're working. So we're gonna go ahead and mute your video if that's what you would like to do. Go ahead and close your eyes as I'm doing right now, and we will start to breathe together. So let's take a deep breath in. Hold it. And exhale very slowly. Pay attention to your body, any stress in your neck, your face. And take the second breath, deep breath in. Hold it. And exhale. Last one, make it good. Relax, pay attention to your shoulders. Take a deep breath in. Hold it. And breathe out slowly. Take some time to gently open your eyes, unmute, and we're back. And so we are going to get started. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you see the right screen. And we're going to talk about community agreements. Again, cultivating thriving work environments through inclusion. Cultivating work environments through inclusion. A little bit about me. My name, as I mentioned before, in case you forgot or can't read my little name down on the bottom, is Michelle Blanco. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. So I am an IDI qualified administrator, Intercultural Development Inventory. This is what that stands for. The Intercultural Development Inventory, what it does for organizations and individuals is it provides an assessment to help them understand how people experience them, especially when it comes to difference. This has been super enlightening for me and super also helpful for me as I grow in my intercultural competence. Any kind of difference counts, anywhere from different department to kind of the major identity markers that we tend to talk about frequently in the DEI space, right? So race, culture, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, et cetera. And so very much enjoy doing that and doing that for organizations and individuals. So I'm a Florican. What that means is that I'm a Puerto Rican from Florida, or Puerto Rican raised in Florida. And so I was born in Puerto Rico, had to learn English when I moved here to Kissimmee, Florida when I was 5 years old, and been living here ever since. So warm weather is my jam, but you know, I don't get to experience or have that same feeling people from up north have when the fall leaves change color, etc. But I am glad I live in Florida in the sense that it gets a little chilly sometimes in the winter. And so let's not get crazy though. So yeah, so I'm more proud of the Puerto Rican part, I suppose, because Floridians might have a certain reputation here in the States for sure. That's not necessarily a positive one every time. So I'm very glad I'm a Florida woman, not a Florida man, for example, because Florida man has definitely gained a reputation. And I don't know who he is. Next, I've been a DEI facilitator educator for about 15 years, but it's complicated because I have come into different roles and different capacities where I am the cultural expert in the room, the intercultural expert, and get asked to speak on panels or speak because I have a bit of an understanding of how culture is understood and how it works. So it's not been necessarily a straight line for me. Also because I was a major in music, and the next part is that I was also a musical theater actor, singer, performer for several years, kind of within that time. So I apologize ahead of time if I break out into song or feel like there's a need to express a certain reality, and that's better done by singing. So just wanted to put that warning out there. I apologize if that's not your thing. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, next. So what is a community agreement? And so what do the words invoke for you? So if you're anything like me, it has a contractual feel in language. This means I may approach it with a bit of hesitation or even suspicion. If there is that hesitation or suspicion, we're going to take a deeper look at what is a community agreement and how it might differ from more formal and potentially impersonal contractual agreements. So one famous agreement that we all kind of do on our phones here, like if you get a new phone or a new device, or you're downloading a new software, it has license agreement, terms and conditions, and you click, I agree. And you probably did not have any idea what you just agreed to. If you're anything like me, you know, I know that I'm probably alone in this, but I definitely click I agree because like I just want to use my stuff, okay? And so, yeah, the I agree can be somewhat of a, yeah, you just didn't know there's like 10 pages of words, which feels like more like 100 pages of stuff that that Apple is not responsible for. And you are. And so that is typically when somebody says the word agreement, is what we think about. And so we're gonna just take a deeper look at what we mean by community agreement. We're gonna use a sample definition from the National Equity Project. And so a community agreement, according to this sample definition, which it can be modified if you don't think that this expresses enough, or it might be too wordy, you know, whatever you may feel at the time. So, but we're going to use it as it's just a place to jump off from. And so it's a consensus on what every person in our group needs from each other and commits to each other in order to feel safe, supported, open, productive, and trusting, so that we can do our best work, achieve our common vision, and serve our students, families, constituents, customers, clients, etc. well. And so this is their definition of community agreements. And let's look at some statements that might describe a community agreement. A community agreement is a vehicle. So it's not the end all be all, but it is a vehicle for awareness of the space we may take, especially as it relates to difference. There's that word, difference, and the power and culture dynamics present. A community agreement is focused on relationships within the community, right? When you have are agreeing with the things on your phone, it's not really a relationship, right? It's very one-sided. They're telling you what's going on and that's it, right? And so there's really an importance on that word, community. And that's really what changes things, is the community aspect. It is focused on creating an environment where every person can thrive. It allows us to give focus and priority to the needs of the underrepresented groups in your company. And it's typically the people that don't feel like they have a voice, right? So it would help us if we're able to create that space, even right now, as we are coming up with these community agreements, to be aware that we're making a space for people that don't typically get heard. So a community agreement is values-based. So it's not just about what you do, but why you do it. Why you want a value to be true of your organization, of your workplace, of the people that you work for and you work with. It can be a living document as we learn more about one another and more values rise to the surface. You may have a situation right now where you may have a particular group that's not represented and you want them represented, right? But the statements that you may come up with right now are not going to truly reflect the needs of those who are not currently represented at all. But as you start beginning to have more representation from those groups, they may express needs that you may not have thought of before, and it continues to be open to that. A community agreement allows us to engage both our posture, motives, I shouldn't say both, all of our posture, motives, and our behaviors to create a more inclusive environment. And so it's all three of those. As if it's just behaviors, we don't understand quite what we're doing when we do it. We don't quite understand what we're saying when we say it. So this is an example, confidentiality. If you have, or I should say trust, right? The reason we keep confidentiality is not just for liability's sake, which is important, or for just because these are the statements and I'm going to follow what is on the statements as they are written, and that's it. So it's about the value of trust, because if you can have confidentiality, trust is key to a vibrant and inclusive, thriving workplace, right? So we want to make sure that we keep things confidential. Not just to do it, but also because we want to be in a place we can trust and that other people can trust us. So why community agreements? We're going to use a metaphor here. I know that I am not the only person likely around here that will hear this video that has ever unintentionally killed a plant, right? And so I've heard from lots of people that I'm not alone, that they tried having a plant and they failed. Why? Usually because most plants die by neglect, right? But there's other factors too. Maybe you overwatered the plant. Maybe it got too much sun. And so they need attention, lots of attention, more than you would expect, right? You just kind of want to leave them there and make them look pretty. But unfortunately, there's a lot of work. They need attention, just the right amount of water, the right amount of light, good temperature, the right environment for the plant. So then there's things that a greenhouse needs. This person right here, she's in a greenhouse, right? And she has a very happy plant, well, from what the looks of it, and surrounded by other happy plants around her. And so that greenhouse needs ventilation. It needs a good location. It needs attentive care. That way, if you think about what it means to be a plant and be happy, you start thinking about all of the different things that it needs in order to produce what we need plants to produce. Plants are a key part of our ecosystem, right? We need the Amazon, and places like the Amazon don't need as much hands-on care, of course, but they do need us to perhaps take our hands off, right? So there's either the hands off or the hands off or hands on, right? And so it's part of the ecosystem, right? It provides us with oxygen and life, right? And so just as with the plants, we spend 40 hours plus a week in environments where we may thrive, stagnate, or struggle. Additional stressors are likely to be present for underrepresented groups. And so we are in an unparalleled time when such a large portion of the workforce in the US is reevaluating what work looks like for them. They're not happy coming back to the status quo, and there should be no workplace that truly considers going back, right? Work is being seen as something that goes beyond paying the bills, but where purpose and even community can be found. They will no longer stand for toxic work environments and low pay. We need to cultivate an environment where not only certain people grow individually, but where we all grow as a community and as individuals. Just as with the greenhouse of plants who do not have emotions and are not conscious beings, need a delicate balance in their environment to grow and reproduce, how much more do humans need, right? These analogies and metaphors eventually break apart, right? We are not plants. We actually demand a little bit more. And also can do more damage. And so, you may be thinking as you're going through this, gosh, this seems like a lot of work. Is it worth it? Or shouldn't just people do their work? That used to be kind of a thinking that we have come from. So we need to change our mindset if we are to match current demands, that we are part of a human relational ecosystem. And we cannot do our best work in isolation and each person simply being responsible for the task before them. This is why it's especially important to look at, think over, and implement community agreements that are from a lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Next is our presence and the significance of our work matters to ourselves and others. Community agreements can help us be present for those who matter to us at work and at home, right? This brings us to our third bullet here. And in general, most people want to make a meaningful contribution wherever they are. They want to be productive, whatever that can mean, and may even have a need to be that is not necessarily determined by society. They may have different needs. And so, however, I and the people that are here, the people that we work with, we are not our productivity. I am not my productivity. I am far more than what I can produce. I'm a part of a relational ecosystem. Other people may need my contribution and I need contribution from others. This is, by the way, not an all exhaustive list. And so if done well, it makes more space for underrepresented groups to live more fully integrated lives. I love that word, integrated. It allows us to not compartmentalize because our brain doesn't quite work that way. It allows us to fully bring our full selves and give our most meaningful contributions to our work and also to our homes as well. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a values exercise. As I mentioned before, values are really that motivator for the actions that we decide to take. What we're going to do is we're going to divide into groups. Each group will have an assigned value by group number. So 1, belonging, 2, inclusion, 3, trust, 4, equity, 5, accessibility, 6, transparency. So these values are just a starting point. You can do this exercise with additional or other values that align more closely with your company's mission and goals. You can also have a different word that means the same thing as some of these words as well. So, and then the next part that you're going to do with your group is come up with 2 to 3 action statements that align with that value. And I will give you some examples in the next slide. If you feel a statement overlaps with a different value, this is okay. This will help to surface actions that are of utmost importance to your workplace. So you may have 2 very similar statements that come from inclusion and equity, for example. And that is completely fine. So here's some examples, some freebies for those who are in the trust group or the inclusion group. Trust, again, it was the example I gave before. We would practice confidentiality when someone shares vulnerably. So again, I want people to trust me just like I want to trust others as well. And the more we can trust, boy, it really goes a long way. So inclusion, we will seek to continue learning and growing from people whose identity and stories are different than our own, while not placing the entirety of the burden, or sometimes any burden if they haven't given you permission, of our learning on others. And so you can, again, you can use that, you can phrase it differently, whatever you need to do. Again, I'm going to copy and paste these onto the chat so you have them when you break into your groups. If there are no questions, then I will go ahead and break you up into groups. I can also go into your rooms as well. If you want to, call me for a question, I can do that as well. All right, so we'll come back in about 20 minutes. Thanks.